paid decent wages, I'm put in prison. When I ask workers to be paid decent wages when we fight against corruption, we are poisoned. And these are things that we are going through. So the national interest is none other than what we agreed in the Constitution. You can have your own views as ZANU-PF, you can have your own views as anyone, but that cannot be the national interest. I want to ask Ikudzi, was it right for Robert Mugabe, Edson Zobo to call for sanctions when they were fighting a brutal colonial rule? Was it right? Were they not patriotic? Do we have unpatriotic bonds at the national shrine? Because those people were calling for sanctions. Those people were asking for arms to fight a government. You ask someone who is simply saying we should not have corruption, who has not asked for arms from China or Russia to unseat a government, and you tell me that those people are not patriotic. I want to argue with a minister, a deputy minister, a permanent secretary, a supporter of the ZANU-PF government, whilst we are all using a skoro train to Mfakose, whilst we are all sending our kids to school where there is no toilet, where there is no water, whilst we are all sleeping hungry because we are all earning the same, and no one is going to Reserve Bank and take US dollars behind the scenes and ditch RTGS. I don't think it's possible to waste the time with people who think that patriotism is defined by what ZANU-PF says is patriotism. Then finally, you can't be talking about America and using it whenever you want. You use America as a standard. Whenever you want, you use America to denigrate other citizens who will be raising constitutional issues. What America is doing in terms of the Assange is wrong. But the difference between America and Zimbabwe is Americans are allowed to speak about. I've heard many Americans at many platforms, not even outside America. They tell the government that you are wrong whilst they are in America. They are not abducted. They are not put in prison. They don't get people with machetes and spears to spear them and to kill them. So that's the major difference. But we can't even use that as a standard. What America is doing on that case is wrong. And we are hearing them saying so. So I don't think we need Lynette to really waste the time on this thing. Today I was addressing workers in Amsterdam at a congress of FNV. They asked me to talk about the situation of workers. What did Kudzai wanted me to say? I told them that it's now it makes economic sense for a doctor, a medical doctor who has gone for 7 years at UZ, to leave the surgery and go and be a domestic worker in South Africa. Because a domestic worker in South Africa earns 4,000 as the minimum salary. A doctor is earning 1.5 or 1,500 rands. It makes sense for a teacher to leave the classroom and go to South Africa and be a farm worker, because a farm worker is earning much more than a teacher. And that is not being unpatriotic. That is just being truthful. In fact, I think we need to turn the heat on these guys. And I want to thank Hopper for standing up to the bullies. They are just bullies who are just having a very dangerous entitlement mentality. They think they own everything, they own everyone. They also want now to own our own thinking, our own humanity, how we feel. They want to own how we feel. Kudzai was using an example of a wife who is being facing maybe gender-based violence, and say, don't go out and speak. That is dangerous. This is why people are dying. We are burying many people who are killed by their spouses, husbands, and wives, because we have nurtured this culture where we say if you are chakafukidza dzimba matenga, don't talk about these things outside when you are facing dangers. When we face dangers, we borrow from what the ZANU-PF people did when they were fighting the regime of Ian Smith. They went out and spoke in New York. They went out and spoke in UK. They had representatives for each country who were speaking bad about Smith, who were speaking truth to power in a foreign country, in foreign capitals. We will follow what ZANU-PF did when they were fighting a brutal colonial regime, because we are also fighting a brutal military dictatorship. I'm not apologetic for calling for sanctions. When the need arises, citizens must call for sanction if sanction is the best alternative that is there to dying. ZANU-PF called for sanctions. Many times they were calling for arms to fight a brutal regime. We are fighting a brutal military dictatorship, one that is killing people willy-nilly. What happened on 1 August 2018? Do you think we should go out there and say, no, people were just running and they fainted, when we saw people being killed mercilessly? So at times, that's why I say it's pointless to talk with these people. They know the truth, but they want to hide behind the truth. Kudzi, if you like Zimbabwe, and if you think Zimbabwe is the best thing that has ever happened to you, come and teach at a local college. I know your salary because I negotiate. They will pay you 30 RTGS. 30 RTGS is less than 100 US dollars. Imagine you earning less than 1,500 in South Africa. You will not be there. You would come back or you would go elsewhere. We are not kids. We know what we want, and the best national interest is codified in the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Mutasa. Kudzi, I would like you to respond to the questions that were raised, and I would like to implore you to respond to this in 5 minutes, because we want to open up to the floor so that our listeners can also contribute to this conversation. So you have 5 minutes.
No, I'll first reject that you're giving me 5 minutes. They spoke for more than 5 minutes.
Kudzi, you also spoke for a longer time the first time.
No,
I let you go because you know they support the same side, and I gave you a much longer time.
Okay, they support the same side. They have spoken for a long time. You should give me enough time to speak, not 5 minutes.
But then we have listeners who also have to participate. Remember, it's not just our conversation, it's Zimbabwe's conversation.
Yes, I should have enough time to speak.
But you're not mentioning a figure. If you say enough time, it's, we're going round in circles. How much time do you need?
They spoke until they were done. So I should speak until I'm done, and then you take over.
But that won't be fair on our listeners. Let's try.
It's not fair on me if you allowed people to speak and you're not allowing me to speak.
So now this is a conversation between me and you. I'm imploring you to, okay, forgive me for doing that. If I did that, can you, because you will get an opportunity to respond.
Allow
I
me
know
to
a lot of people want to ask
you. If I'm
questions.
done, I'll leave. If I'm done, I'll just tell you I'm done. Allow me to speak, to respond to the issues.
But it will be unfair, Kudzi, if you then go for like 30 minutes. So I want to know.
Yes, I won't go for 30 minutes. I'll just speak and I'm done and you take over.
Okay,
don't give me 5 minutes.
Let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Let me speak. First of all, as a teacher myself, looking at the topic and what has been submitted, I would call it irrelevant, but I would not want to say that because it's a public platform. But it's irrelevant. What we're talking about is patriotism and speaking the truth about one's country. They have said a lot of things which really have nothing to do with the topic. In fact, it ended up being a rant about their own personal grievances, which we understand. People have grievances. In fact, if you give every Zimbabwean a microphone, they can spend even years complaining about whatever is troubling them in their lives. We understand that part. Peter, Desmond, and the rest have got those issues. That's understandable. But then we are talking about the country here. If it comes to comfort, as Peter was talking about, it is your responsibility as an individual to create comfort for yourself. If you think that being in South Africa will make you comfortable, come to Johannesburg and see how many people are living in poverty, in squalor. If you think Zimbabweans who came to South Africa are living comfortably, come to Johannesburg and see how many of them are living on the streets. Because wherever you are the master of your own destiny. The comfort that you can talk about, I don't have it because I'm in South Africa. Even if I have it or I don't have it, you don't know that. It is because I worked hard for whatever I get. That's how life it is. Even if I come to Zimbabwe today, Peter may still be whining while I'm not, because I have the ability maybe to eke out a living. He said that should go and teach it. You use it. That's a very basic thing. So some of the grievances or some of the complaints that we should all be walking on foot. Why should I walk on foot when I can make money to buy a car or when I can have some comfort for myself? We are not a communist country. We work for our own things. That's fine. What I'll fight for, what everyone can fight for, is what can only be provided by the government. That's what we fight for. And surely Peter or Desmond or everybody here knows me that I'm one of the people who can attack a minister or whoever for service delivery. I can tell you that this is nonsense. This is a rubbish policy because it will be bad for everyone or for all of us. I will point it out. Everyone can do that. It's allowed to do that. But now, let's go to the nitty gritties of the topic. It's about national interest. Peter says he wants to live a comfortable life. But the same Peter says, I want sanctions on my country. Why do you want to live a comfortable life when you want sanctions, as if sanctions bring you comfort? If they did, then you should be happy then that you have the sanctions because they're there. Why are you not comfortable? Why are you still whining? Because they don't give you the comfort. When ZANU PF was calling for sanctions, they were ready to suffer. Do you hear me? It's not like they were, if they were not having sanctions, they were living comfortably. Black people were already living in squalor. Having sanctions or not did not affect their daily lives. The economy was a white economy. They were fighting for freedom. But you see someone who is contesting for elections saying, I'm fighting for democracy. What democracy are you fighting for when you are participating in a democratic process? That's different. ZANU PF could not participate in sanctions, in elections, by the way. They were fighting. They had to fight to participate in elections. They had to fight. Tendai Biti is an MP now. He makes the law. He can debate. He can say we want this in the law. If you check the Hansard, many times where Minister Ziambi had to change the laws because Tendai Biti or another opposition MP gave an input. So we already have people participating in democratic processes. Of course, politics is never a clean game. Politics is not a charity event where someone is going to donate power to someone else. It's not like that. We know it. We're going to see things sometimes not being linear. It happens. Or you cannot talk about a level playing field when someone has got sanctions on their back. What level is it about the sanctions? So there's no level playing field already. But we can discuss that. We can fight that. We can argue about that as a family. That's okay. That's fine. The problem is when you think Peter tried to say national values or values are national interest or the law is a national interest. Please, there's a difference between criminals and people who are not patriotic. The only common thing about criminals and people who are not patriotic is that both of them are desirable and are disgusting. We can say that about people who are patriotic and criminals. They are not desirable in a civilized society. That's a fact. But they are not the same people. That's why Hope can still fly to Zimbabwe and be a free man, because being unpatriotic is not in our laws a crime. It's not. But we still label him that because whatever he would have done or whatever he would have said is against the national interest. If you say it is for the national interest, then you should point out what benefit we got from it. See, you can say, I was asking for sanctions. If you ask ZANU-PF, you ask for sanctions, what did you get from it? Oh, we got independence because we had the sanctions and we fought, we got support, we have independence. Fine. 20 years of sanctions from America. What have you gotten from it? No one can point anything that they got from the sanctions. If it's about political power, ZANU-PF is becoming stronger and stronger. In fact, in 2000, in the year 2000, ZANU-PF was actually very much weaker than what it is today. The sanctions have not made ZANU-PF weak. The sanctions has not given anyone any benefit. The sanctions are rejected by the majority of the population. They string people. So if you are going and say you are asking for them, it's for whatever purpose. It's not for your it's not for everyone. It's for you. It's for your personal narrow interest. And as I said, Peter says he's a crisis coalition. What? Do you think that organization can be relevant if they don't say there's a crisis? It cannot be. That's a fact. So when I hear you making all these unending complaints, whining, it has nothing to do with our topic. It has something to do with your personal interest. You internalize everything, even when it's not to be scandalized. Talk of who are we fighting for to take over? Who is the alternative that you're fighting for? Because now this kind of discussion is becoming a binary discussion. If we read our topic there, it does not mention a political party. It does not mention ZANU-PF, but it has been about ZANU-PF or all these kind of things that Peter has been whining about. That is the problem for Zimbabwe, where everything is binary when it is not supposed to be binary. National interests are national interests. It is in the national interest for our economy to grow. You cannot say you want a better life when your economy is not growing. You cannot say you want jobs when the companies that create jobs are under sanctions. You cannot say you want water or clean water when Complex, the company that make water chemicals, water treatment chemicals, is under sanctions. Who do you want to provide the water chemicals for you to have clean water? Who? How do you say you want doctors to earn big money when the government itself, where is the government getting money to pay salaries? It gets from people who pay tax. Who are the people who pay tax? It is the private sector who pay tax. Companies like Econet, companies like Deribot, companies like CBZ. Those are the companies or those are the entities that pay tax. It is that tax that is used to build roads, to build schools, to pay the salaries of civil servants. It comes from there. Then you come, you say, sanction Sakunda, sanction CPZ, sanction Complex, and you still want a big salary. From where? You see? So when you're calling for sanctions, you are hating yourself. You are
Yeah,
hating
but
the
don't
national
lie.
interest.
Now sending lies here.
Can I speak? When you was talking, I was quiet. just shut up when I'm speaking so that I speak, because I didn't speak when others were speaking.
Kudzai, can we not use that kind of language? Let's not tell each other to shut
Oh,
up. And please, can we? I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to speak. Allow him to finish so that we can continue.
okay, thank you. I withdraw the word shut up, but then yes, they should keep quiet when I'm talking, because I was quiet also. So you can't say you are for the national interest when your actions are against that national interest. You can't say you are fighting for human rights when you think that um, a sanction that destroys someone's ability to have a job is okay. What is human about the right that you are fighting for? There's nothing human about that. It is political, or at best it is your personal interest. You see, the national interest is for everyone. Everyone drinks water in Zimbabwe. If we have a company that provides water chemicals being under sanctions, it is going to affect everyone, because all the people, the president, even the one who doesn't like the president, still drinks water. That's a national interest. We cannot argue about that. We all need water. We cannot argue about that. We cannot argue about the fact that we want to have jobs. We cannot argue about that. We all want that. So everything that we do that harms that our access to water, it is not patriotism. Everything that we do that harms our ability to get jobs, it is not patriotism. But look at this person who goes to a national, international platform. He speaks
Kudzai,
good.
let me please intervene. Please round up because we are running out of time
Yes,
now.
I'm running up. Then we have two people. One has gone onto an international platform. He said all the bad things that he says. It does not matter really. It does not matter whether they're true or they're false. What matters is what is their effect in the end. If they got us, if let's say Hopeway goes and says that, and then it gets us cancer machines, drugs, and what, I will clap hands for him. That's great. It's in our interest. We need those things. If he goes out, he says something, it doesn't get us anything except bad publicity and maybe a bad image. It harms our national interest. There's nothing to clap hands for in the end. So that part is not patriotic. It's not patriotic. I heard Peter talking about that. I said it's about the family and gender-based violence. I never said that. I never said that. In fact, I gave an example of where a child is telling the father next door or a man next door that we don't have millimil, and then he gets millimil for the family. That's in the interest of the family. It's good. What's wrong is when a woman or a wife goes to the man next door and tells them about erectile dysfunction. I don't know, maybe he doesn't know what's erectile dysfunction. It's about sex and everything. He tells the man next door about that. Is it good for the family? It is a truth, but is it a truth good for the family? It's not, because it destroys the family in the end. There's nothing good about it. We have a choice as a people to do things that are actually beneficial, things that actually bring positive change. The good salaries that you want don't fall from heaven. They come out of production. They come out of productivity. They come from people who are paying tax. If you harm the people who pay tax, someone like Strive Masiwa, he owns Econet, maybe one of the companies that pays the most tax in Zimbabwe. He says sanctions are not good for us. And you say, no, he's wrong. You are right. The one who is just what you say, right? An activist who is not running a company. This one running the company that pays the tax, that enables doctors to have good salaries. You are attacking him. You're saying it's not right. So it shows you the kind of sort of like confusion. It's confusion, really, when you don't know what is good for you, when you don't know what's right for everyone. That's where we are lacking. Peter said we don't know what the national interest. Values are not national interests, for God's sake. They are not national interests. The national interest is an idea that we all embrace, that we all say this idea or this thing is good for us. National interests are not the same. They morph, they change with situation. There are times when to say something, a truth, is good for the country, that's fine. There are times when speaking the truth is not good for the country or for a family. That's what national interests are. They are contextual. They depend on context sometimes. Not just every time it's right to say the truth. Every time it's right to say the truth. That one, it comes from the Bible. That's where they tell you that you should always tell the truth. But that's not practical life. In reality, we are practical people. We know, even as a person, Peter himself, who was Jesus Christ's disciple, there was a time he had to lie. And I think Jesus forgave him for that lie, because if he had not lied, things were not going to be right for him. That's something that you look at and say, there's an interest here that you have to protect, and a lie can actually be forgiven. Or sometimes you don't have to lie, you just don't talk about it.
Come on.
Sometimes you don't just talk about.
Please, we've had enough of you, please.
Thank you.
Okay, let me just finish up. 2 minutes.
No, you have been talking for too long, Kuti.
Yes.